You're listening to the Para Is My Normal podcast. We are a bit science, a bit woo, and all curious about that which defies explanation because sometimes normal just isn't.
Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with the one and only Lauren Hantz. In part 1, we trace Lauren's journey from her early experiences to her thoughtful use of tech and the critical lens she brings to the paranormal. If you haven't listened to that yet, hit pause and go check it out, because today we're picking up right where we left off. In this episode, we're diving deep into the Madison installation, a groundbreaking project that blends intention, environment, and experimental design in a way few investigators have attempted. From there, we'll explore the role of meditation and paranormal connection, how Lauren views the bridge between science and the unexplained, and what she sees on the horizon for the future of this field. Grab your notebook and an open mind. This is where things get fascinating and super geeky. So you mentioned at the start that you have a permanent installation now at Madison.
Well, yeah.
And I'm very interested about that. Okay, so what is this?
The Madison Seminary Chamber is and right now the chamber is down because it is being upgraded because I'm just upgrading everything lately.
Is it the mirror, all the mirrors around it?
No, that is
okay.
Jeff Fent built that. That is the Devil's Toy Box.
The Devil's Toy Box, right?
Yes. The chamber is a converted linen closet that has it has a bench and it has some fabric hanging on the walls and there are speakers in there. And the upgrade is going to be very cool because it will have a touch screen where you can pick sort of your journey, and I can constantly upload new meditations so you can kind of pick which one you choose. And you shut the door and there's a blackout curtain, so it's pitch black. And you sit and you listen to a meditation. And the idea behind it is that, you explore the location for a few minutes, you go and you meditate, and then you explore the same areas and you see if anything has changed with how you perceive the place. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So it's just kind of allowing people to, in real time, experience the difference that happens with our response to stimulus and our central nervous system, our fight or flight response. From, going into a location cold and then meditating, having a voice guided or, a sound stimulated meditation, and then how your perception or your observation skills or your senses change afterwards. And there are little points throughout the voice guided part of the meditation that you visualize, and they're all very intentional. And I'm going to be putting more meditations, which is why it's prompting there's going to be a little touch screen so you can pick how long you want to meditate and all this other stuff.
Oh, that's really neat.
And so when, Adam and Rebecca at the Madison Seminary are two very good friends of mine. Rebecca, it was almost MadCon, and she reached out to me and she said, we have all of this stuff that we want to do with the location. We want to add some stuff. I want you to add something here. And I was like, oh, cool. What do you want me to add? They already have my equipment there that they run out to people and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, what other things do you want me to add? This could be fun. She's like, I don't know. To me, it's I want it to be some sort of art installation or something like that. And I was like, I think I might have an idea. And she's like, let's meet up. And, I went to Madison and met up with her, and Adam and Becca and I were walking around the building, and she's like, I want to show you the place that I want you to put something in. It's up on Sarah's floor, and it's a very haunted floor in the whole building. And we went up there and she opens this broom closet, and she's like, I know it's kind of messy. And she opened it and I was like, oh my gosh, I know what this is going to be. And I start telling her about it, and she was like, oh my God. Because she's very into meditation, very into yogic practices and things like that. So she was fucking stoked.
I was gonna say, so this is right on her wavelength. She's like, oh yeah, this would be a perfect thing here.
She has my meditations on her phone and she listens to them before she goes to location. So she gave me the idea to put them on my website. So people who did the chamber
really
and they're
smart.
I really connected with that. Now they can access those and they can either stream them for free or they can download them for $1. And
that's genius.
Yeah, so it's like
Hmm.
whatever. Stream them for free. I'm not I don't
Yeah.
want to make a bunch of money on this. Or if you want to download it and keep it forever, your buck goes towards the fees that I pay on my website. So and so now you can access them. If you go to a haunted location, you can listen to these meditations in your car or whatever and see if it enriches or enhances your experience. But the chamber itself is this idea of like completely almost like this sensory deprivation. It's going through an upgrade now because I want to make it even more like I want it to be a little bit louder, a little bit more immersive, a little bit
Okay.
darker. And I want it to be this sort of like pick your adventure. So you'll be able to decide if you want to do a 5-minute voice guided for like beginners, or if you
Hmm.
want to do a 15-minute sound stimulated meditation, which is like the shamanic drumming and some like um,
Oh, so
tonal
it's not
sort of like,
guided, but you have this like
yes, it's
place for
just
you
sound.
to fall on your own. Okay.
And that one's like 15
Oh.
minutes. So that's for more of like the experienced. The voice guided is 5 minutes long and it's like a small little like journey. And then I'm going to probably do one that's kind of like in the middle. 5 minutes is about the shortest meditation I would probably ever guide. My sweet spot is in the 10-minute range. So I'll
Hmm.
probably add, a 10-minute that's going to combine the two. So you'll be able to have like beginner, just voice guided, 15-minute, sound stimulated, or this like sweet spot 10-minute partial voice guided, partial sound stimulated kind of meditation. And you'll be able to access them on my website too.
I'm really excited for this because I think that one of the things that we tend to jump into a space and be very just like all the things all at once, going into it with more discernment. And I think
Mhm.
meditation, because it
It slows
forces
you
you
down.
to slow down, which is not easy. And I've tried I think that's a difficult thing for our culture as well. Not that
Oh my gosh,
Americans are
yes.
so right, but we're so TikToks. We are so quickly moving that to take even 5 minutes, which is really short, but
Mhm.
a 5-minute meditation feels like days. I love the guided meditations because it helps calm my little monkey mind,
You
and it helps
visualize.
me kind of like, yeah, and I'm not
Oh,
chasing
I
every
give
little
you
thing in
stuff
my
to
head, right?
visualize. Yeah.
And I appreciate that because it's like it allows guiding. And I think something like that, I think maybe it will open people up to the concept of I was just able to sit for 5 minutes and kind of connect to this thing. Maybe as I go into other parts of my life, I can take just a minute to apply that as well, slow down a little bit and
Mhm.
just maybe
Oh
spend a
yeah.
little bit more time to experience the
And
things.
they're not ghosty meditations either. They're very like you could use this if you're having a tough day at work, go listen to the 5 minute. You know what I mean?
That's really
The
good.
5 minute one
I really
is
like this.
more geared towards like opening up your third eye in order to,
Mhm.
but it's good for anytime.
I'm really interested. There's some people I know who are so excited to have that experience that it's almost like they close themselves off from having the
Oh yeah.
experience because, right, they just either they want it so much or they're so overprotected that they've literally just closed themselves off to it. I wonder if by having them do something like this, if it could
Hmm.
potentially shift for them and they're let down the guard a little bit and they're able. I think this is a really unique application.
Yeah. So meditation has such like a long history in mental health, spirituality, spiritual connection, both in like secular and non-secular space.
Yeah.
And even down to things like honestly like prayer is meditation, movement can be meditation. A lot of cultures are based around the divinity of like meditation and connecting with your gods or whatever through meditation. So um, meditation is so prevalent throughout human history um, that it's not utilized in our Western culture enough at all in any way, shape, or form. There have been a lot of studies going into schools and practicing meditation with children and how it increases grade point average and studying and attention.
Wow.
There are studies with like meditation with people with ADHD, and of course, this is not meditation doesn't replace medication. Um, but it is
That's a
something that,
nice context
well,
to it, like a
it can make
compliment.
meditation work, or it can make medication work better. So if you are somebody who suffers from, ADHD and or hyperactivity, and you are medicated and you add meditation, even if it's short-term meditation, that can help how your medication works on your brain, because medication is going to work on a brain that is a more calm and organized brain, even as calm and organized as an ADHD or ADD brain can be.
Indeed.
And because it's all about chemicals and retraining the pathways that have made connections in your brain, and the chemical levels. And there have been studies on brain activity, um, blood pressure, healing, and even how things like radiation or chemotherapy might work in a body that practices meditation compared to just, going in cold. And
Interesting.
oh, it's not, obviously, the numbers are high enough that you have, yoga and meditation is something that doctors often prescribe to people, that
And you actually
often
start seeing
suggest
it
to
in
people.
hospitals now.
You have it in hospitals. It is something that's practiced in different religions. They have things like Reiki practitioners at the Cleveland Clinic. And honestly, when you're somebody who's receiving Reiki, the person that's on the receiving end is in a state of meditation. So the Reiki, honestly, sometimes it could possibly be the Reiki practitioner is just the catalyst for you, calming down and finding that meditative state. So there's so much research and data behind meditation being something that is innately helpful to the human body, to the human psyche, to the human emotional state. That when we introduce it to something like the paranormal, which is usually done, at nighttime, there's a high percentage of that sort of like, we want that fear factor, we want all of that stuff. We want to connect with whatever energy is out there. There's all these check boxes that say meditation would help in all of these scenarios when it comes to how we're perceiving the paranormal, or how we're interacting with it, or how we're experiencing it, or how we're registering it in our own minds. So it was just like, there are sort of like meditation adjacent things, but there's never really, what I've seen, like a straight up, just full out like meditation for a ghost hunter. So
Yeah, that's why my interest was so piqued by this, because I was like,
it's like, it makes
gosh, this
so
is
much
really
sense. I don't
interesting.
know why it's not like, I know, and I know it's a thing with some people, but why it's not a, just a standard.
And I also I've noticed now through our talk a little circle, like full circle moments, a little kismet sprinkle in here, a lot of things that have connected for you. Yeah, another thing that's connecting the parts of your life together being the yoga in you, right? The yogi in you, and then coming to this, applying it in a different way. These are those things that we were talking about earlier about don't be afraid to try something. Like, everything we do today, someone thought of or repurposed
Oh,
something or
yes.
create, right? And we need to be willing just to kind of play around with things and just see what happens. There's no harm in experimenting. There's no harm in taking a different approach, or changing things up once in a while. Or all the time.
There's
There's
no
no
harm
harm
in
in doing
changing
it.
your mind.
Exactly. You're
That's the
not,
biggest one.
that's the hardest one, because we are so branded to our identity of how we feel, right? Nope, I've said publicly this is my opinion, and now to change it,
Yes. Oh, doubling down is like,
right? It's like, no, you're not going to win. So I'm excited when we go back to Madison to try it. And I'm definitely going to be downloading those, because I'm going to be at OSR twice for privates. We're actually for my birthday in August going,
I
and
love
then
that.
we're doing that at Eloise as well in July, just the two of us. I've been thinking about what do I want to do when I go there, because I'm going multiple times to these locations. What are some things I want to try? Since again, there's no scarcity in this, right? You can go, you can do it and explore. I think those are other places that I've gotten to a certain point, and it's like I want to try something different, shake it up a little bit, and just see
Just
if
do
my
the meditation
experience
straight up
changes.
in the attic.
Oh yeah. So you definitely know OSR. There is one place I've been drawn to for years, and now it's my go-to place. I can't explain it. If you're walking towards the chapel, so you turn left at the Schofield X, and then the room on the left, it's the closet on the right-hand side.
Okay.
It's the most random thing. I've spent literally hours there one time. We did 2 privates, 2 days apart at OSR. We like booked out a whole thing. And so I went there one night, boop, spent literally 4 hours in that closet. I can't explain why I'm always drawn there. Had some really weird experiences. And then the next night that we came back, had other people in there with me and they experienced the same thing without me telling them what they were. So that's probably one place I would do too, because it's like the place I'm constantly drawn to. And I want to like go a little further. I feel like I'm closed off a little bit and I want to try to open myself up more to things and just trying to figure out if that is learnable or if it's ingrained in your brain how open, not, I'm mentally open because I'm mentally curious, embrace curiosity, I ask, I learn, I go out and do. But for me, I don't know. It's like intuition block or something. Like I want to open up a little bit more and see if that is something that you can grow your ability to be more perceptive, more empathic,
Voice
more.
guided one would be good. Yeah, you'll want to use that voice guided one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't trust my mind for a non-guided one at the moment.
I would do the voice guided one, but I would do it before you even get there.
Meditation may be an internal tool, but for Lauren, it sparks something external too. A renewed drive to build, create, and contribute in a new way. Coming out of that deep dive into consciousness and connection, she found herself back at the workbench, designing tools like the CrystalPod, the Nova, and the Seer, not just gear, but as extensions of intention and curiosity. But this time, it wasn't just about making devices. It was about shaping the future of the field, educating others, opening new pathways for investigation, and doing it all in a way that's both credible and engaging. Because if we want the paranormal to be taken seriously, we have to be willing to take it to new directions. So, my dear, where do you see kind of the trajectory of what you're doing? So you mentioned that you're thinking about going back to building full time. Are you looking at honing in the gear that you currently make? Are there other things that you're thinking about creating and birthing into existence?
So I have a lot of projects coming up. I'm probably going to stick with the 3 pieces that I make when it comes to retail. I don't want to be a big retail equipment person. I do think that we are saturated with equipment. So I have the 3 pieces that I use, and I have a specific way that I use them. And like, those are the pieces that I want to put out in the world. So the CrystalPod, the Nova, and the Seer. That's it. So it's not likely, like every once in a while, like for like a special, maybe I'll do like some caskets or some like little IR motion sensors. But I'm probably never going to expand on what I do like retail wise. So going back to building full time would most likely just be the way that opens up my projects. So we had said at the very beginning of this, like how important entertainment was. And that is a big like focus with some of my goals, is being a bigger voice for education and sort of opening up this new pathway in the paranormal that is less, ghost hunty and more almost like ghost hunty with a little more academia almost. And just like, I would love to be a step in a direction that helps like science community start to take some ideas of like modern paranormal publicly seriously. Because I will say there are aspects of this world that are taken very seriously in the science world, but not a lot of that stuff is at the forefront because it's not entertaining. And I kind of want to be the Bill Nye, I want to be something that is like, it's cool to learn about this stuff. It's cool to maybe not so much theorize that ghosts aren't inherently maybe like deceased humans, but maybe we're talking about, let's learn about different dimensions and what different dimensions might look like. And is it possible for things to exist in other dimensions that we can't see? But also how if something exists in another dimension that we can't see, they're not they're not like us. Like that is an impossibility. And like how that opens the mind even more to what does that other side look like? And because that's mind blowing in and of itself.
I was just going to say that little shift, which isn't a little shift, but that shift from thinking specifically ghosty to dimension, that changes wildly how you would start approaching locations and what you
Well,
would
the
do.
thing is that we look at other dimensions and we see other people, and that's
We
not
think
what it
it's
would
just
look
like
like.
a carbon copy of our timeline, just with some slight
Yeah.
changes.
We live in a 4-dimensional existence and we are 3-dimensional beings. And if you're talking about higher dimensions, it's not this. They can't be because we're 3-dimensional. And our minds can't fathom a 5th-dimensional existence and what that would even look like because we humanize this field so much. We humanize it. We make
Yeah.
them into people. We make them into people. We make them into 3-dimensional things that we can understand. Even if it's a praying mantis monster, that's still humanizing it. And that's why, like, one of my talks is called Are You There, Ghost? And it's like why communication is stunting our growth. It's not because I don't like communication modalities. I'm building some communication
Yeah.
modalities. My equipment technically isn't meant to be used for communication. People just use it for that, which is fine. But
Mhm.
I'm building some experimental pieces that are based on communication. But it's like humanizing that energy and making everything people digestible is like stunting.
Yeah.
So I want to be that step. And in order to do that, I have to be in entertainment. And people poo poo on entertainers in the paranormal. And I'm like, well, that's where I want to be. So start poo pooing me then, because that's where I want to go. If Zach Bagans tomorrow was like, Lauren, you should be on Ghost Adventures, I'd be like, bet. Let me find a black skirt with circuit boards on it. Like,
Some affliction,
yeah, let's bedazzle some jeans, y'all.
because it's also showing that there's space for all of this. And my friend Paula and I talk a lot about this, that there's space for everyone with respect. With respect, if we're respecting each other, I don't see a reason why there can't be all ends of the spectrum, because we need
It's so
challenges
wild.
sometimes without ego and without, being aggressive, but just curiosity. Curiosity is so important in this field, because we say we're curious because we're going out and hunting ghosts and we're trying to experience these things. But how curious are we really? And so I think this opens up the door for the more, instead of saying, I would never talk to someone of that level because they only do the show for the blah blah blah. It's like, no, it's like, but by coming together, like, that's only expanding the possibility of what can happen, because now you have two different points of views, and we all know that, the sum is greater than the parts that come into the equation.
Aberration.
That would be an
Zach Bagans
interesting
would.
one.
Zach Bagans would. No, I do. I don't care. I watch Ghost Adventures. It's fine. I find it very entertaining. And I'm sorry, anybody that uses a REM pod, y'all, where do you think that stuff got popular?
Honestly, like
People,
Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, those shows were
Ghost
the
Adventures,
only
Ghost
consumable.
Adventures trailblazed 90% of the equipment that we use in the paranormal. And people do
Bill
not
Chappell.
like that.
Bill
Ghost
Chappell was highlighted quite
Adventures.
a bit in the early years of them. Didn't they have
Ghost
him on?
Adventures was Bill Chappell made all of their equipment. So,
Yeah.
and Gary Galka, I'm pretty sure the first DOS REM pod was on Ghost Adventures. Ghost Hunters, people aren't like remembering, like Ghost Hunters, the whole point behind Ghost Hunters was that like they didn't use really paranormal equipment. They used electricians' equipment. They used plumbers'
Yeah.
equipment. Like they used up until like towards the end of the original, they started using the ghost tech.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning, it wasn't. It was all just very like practical stuff that you could find. There was some experimental stuff, but the majority of it was just like thermal imaging, EMF meters, some proximity stuff, which I will say, I did get to put on my most recent presentation that I have at Parapsychon. I have a list of like notable people that have either, used or promoted my equipment. Jason Hawes has used the Nova. So,
All right, what is the Nova?
it is a microwave motion sensor. So it uses microwave like Doppler.
Oh,
So if you were to put on glasses that you could only see microwaves, you wouldn't be able to see like your hand in front of your face. So microwaves are absolutely everywhere. So this essentially takes microwave radiation and it shoots it out at the front of the device, and it maps about a 10-foot, roughly 8 or so wide at the very end range of like a mapped out floor plan, essentially, up until probably like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. And depending on where it's sitting, if it's sitting like up on a chair, it will map a bigger area. But if it's on the floor, like in a hallway, and then if something moves within that area, it registers the movement of like the map that it's mapped out, and it sets the device off. And why it's important to know how things work is because people are like, oh, it's a motion sensor. Motion sensors aren't all the same. The majority of motion sensors are infrared motion sensors.
PIR, yeah.
Passive infrared motion sensors, which basically means that if you roll a ball across the floor, a PIR, a passive infrared motion sensor, is not going to pick up on that ball moving because there's no infrared radiation coming off of that, and there's no like temperature change or anything like that. So it won't actually measure, quote unquote, if we do tinfoil hat stuff, like something like poltergeist activity, it would measure that. So the Nova does not have to be emitting any kind of electromagnetic radiation. Even just, it's the size of like a softball. It will register. If it rolls across, it'll register and it'll set the device off. So it's really useful because it measures movement in everything. I love using it in hallways. That's my favorite place to use that device. And that's where I tell everybody to use it. Use it in a hallway or use it in like a room that's not super, super cluttered, but it goes through solid material as well too. So like if you're standing behind a chair and you move and you're within range, it will pick you up.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's a very cool device. And then there are microwave motion sensors out there, and how it differs, because even if I'm remaking something that's already out there, I like to add something to it to just make it different. So the difference is it has a 230 lumen light bulb on it, so that when it is triggered, it has a red light bulb or it has a white light bulb. The red light bulb is if you're present, it will light up the area in which the trigger range is registering. So you can see shadows being cast or something moving or whatever. The white light bulb is if you were to put a camera on it, no night vision at all on this camera. So just completely black room. If something turns it off, the white light turns on and illuminates the whole area. So it's a very bright,
Really
bright
interesting.
light bulb.
Yeah, that is exceptionally bright.
So the red light bulb is really nice if you're going to be, in the room with
You're
it.
not
It
getting
won't.
shocked with a bright
Yeah,
light.
because it's if I had the lights off, this would light up most of the entirety of the room. It's very, very bright. But yeah, there's that. And then Becky Ann Galentine is a huge advocate for my equipment as well too. She has like, I don't know, a bajillion followers, and she took this year on NBC News. So there's that too.
Well, you're definitely getting some good exposure out there. And I will say it's fun seeing kind of like your evolution and the things that you're doing. And I think, again, coming from that respectful place of critical thinking is okay. It's okay. We can ask questions. We can question what we're experiencing. It doesn't mean we're poo-pooing
Should be
it. It doesn't mean,
celebrated.
yes, we need to question, because how else do we know how to share that experience with other people? The more we share experiences, the more we share how we do things, the more we understand the things that we're using. It's not just, oh, I need these things because I see people using them. Therefore, this clearly is the standard go-to of paranormal equipment. I need a REM pad. I need a this. I need a that. These are just, I need to have them. It's like, okay, but to your point, how do you know what they do? And
Why do you
how do you
need
know
them?
why do you need them? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Not being aggressive and challenging in a negative way, but asking, because there might be a simpler way to get to what you're trying to experience. And it's just exciting to see with all the new things that come out there. I mean, literally the tech field, I've been researching ITC devices and like the history of and how we interact with them and kind of like how they work and all it just the whole talk about a rabbit
Those
hole.
are going to be hard because ITC is so
Such
subjective.
it really
Like the
is.
whole, I don't typically dive into the how do you know it works if you don't know how it works with like ITC stuff because it's just like there's.
It's all algorithms and it's
Although
all
if you know Ron Iacovetti or if you've never heard of Ron Iacovetti, I suggest so they have Digital Seance, and I would look those two up, Ron Iacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez. Look them up on Facebook, and if you friend request them or whatever, you could just be like, Lauren suggested that I stalk you, and they'll be like, fantastic, sounds just like her. Yes. And they're doing quite a few different things that you can like see how their digital seance and how they approach ITC and like the different ways that they do their experiments and stuff too. So there's a lot of really cool people. And I have, obviously, if you have never worked with a Fent box too, Jeff Fent,
yeah.
he does incredible work with spirit boxes and stuff.
You know, the more transparent when companies come out and they create something new, but they're like, and I'm going to pull back the curtain and I'm going to be completely like transparent. This is why I did it. This is what we're doing. I think that also lends to the trust factor, right, of it.
Yeah, people don't understand too, like being transparent doesn't mean like telling people how to. I can be transparent about my pieces of equipment and I'm not like telling people how to make my stuff,
No,
but like
you're not
I
giving
make
away
money
your
on.
IP.
Yeah.
Exactly. No.
And I think that that's a common misconception that people like, I'm not asking for your secrets. I'm just
I'm not asking
asking.
literally what's the thing that is making it
No.
yours.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, that you're understanding this correctly.
Transparency in tech isn't just a talking point, it's a responsibility. And for Lauren, that commitment led to something new. Enter the Seer, a static detection device designed not just to pick up environmental changes, but to help hold other tech accountable. It's not about replacing tools. It's about checking them, validating them, and raising the bar for how we interpret evidence. So let's take a closer look at how the Seer works and why it might be one of the most important tools Lauren's built yet. So, can you briefly tell people the Seer what they understand it being, what it does, and why? This is why I was so excited about it because I'm very big in holding tech accountable.
This is tested too, big time. Where's my cool? This is tested both like manually and here, we'll test it with this. This will be a good test. So it is a static sensor. And the difference between, so there's a lot of things that will say that they detect static, but they'll detect static and like EMF. And those things are all still susceptible to the same things that REM pods and things like that are susceptible to. And the thing about
meaning like
static,
walkie-talkies, cell phones, CB radios, all the things that are happening in the world, not just a paranormal thing.
Yep. And then there's also like some static devices are going to be very susceptible to magnets and things like that too. And I do have a video where I literally put a magnet on the sensor. Nothing.
Nothing.
And like the magnet stuck to the sensor. And so I have videos. I have videos testing it with a two-way radio. I have videos putting a magnet on the actual sensor itself and it not going off. So I do a lot of testing to make sure that how I say it works is really how it works. Because the worst thing that could ever happen is that somebody says that their tech does something and then I test it and I find out that it doesn't. And there
Big credibility issue.
Have been quite a few pieces that I've put to the test for something. And one of the biggest ones was natural EMF devices. Knowing that natural EMF devices aren't a thing because you can't differentiate between those things. And this is a common misconception actually in the paranormal, which is another thing that I've been wanting to really try to work towards, just like the teaching part of it, that like magnetometers are really, really popular as a tool, like an old school tool, because it picks up on natural EMF And that's not a thing. It's picking up on magnetic fields, and you magnetic fields and electromagnetic radiation, though like cousins, are not the same
The same
thing.
thing. Mm-hmm.
And so there's like that. So, okay, but I digress. Let's talk about this because she's pretty. So this is the seer, and she's gorgeous. Now, she used to look like, I don't even know where my old seer is, but she used to look like this. She was this shape,
Yes.
and she didn't
Yes.
make any noise. And she just, she would just blink
Lit
when
up.
everything was. Now, this baby,
So pretty.
she's so pretty. The best part about her is you can see no matter where she's sitting, you can
Oh,
see
I
her,
like that.
and she has full sound, which is really important.
Can you turn on and off the sound?
No, this does not have a mute. No mute. The Nova, you can turn off the sound, but the new Seer, you can't turn off the sound.
When the drop happened and I was able to yes, I can finally order it, because for me, it's especially in Michigan, even in Ohio. I mean, in Ohio, I would say is probably more interstates. Michigan is definitely boat traffic. And I think the level of places that we go to that are near
Yes.
boats, the tech they use to communicate with towers, with the bridges, with all of that travels for people. Like, we're not right by the lake. I'm like, it
Doesn't
travels
matter.
miles. You don't know. And that's the thing, we don't know. And so having something that purely only will go off with static is huge, because it's a way of being able to tell, could it potentially be.
I don't have my two-way radio, but you can point. I literally I got right up next to it. And I've really gotten the sensitivity down too, where it's awesome, to where it's picking up on the static of me creating the static on here.
Of the static away. So there's no sensitivity dial either. It is set for a sensitivity.
It's so my issue with sensitivity dials is that photometers aren't necessarily made just for the sensitivity that they're being used for in tech, because there is always going to be way too high and they're supposed to be way too low. So like the photometers on a lot of the tech, especially with the internal components that they're using, should not have external. Like the Nova has this same like photometer that I can set for the Nova, and I preset all of them.
Okay.
Same thing. This has it needs to be able to pick up on that ambient static. It's also picking up a ton of static in here because we have a very old house and it's very dry up in I also set off static equipment way too much. I used to think that I was making my equipment too sensitive, and then I would go to a haunted location and it would like never go off. And I'm like, what the heck? So my workshop, I jokingly say, is just haunted because my equipment goes off all the time. But then I'll give it to the person that I made it for, and they're like, yeah, the sensitivity is perfectly fine. It like barely goes off. And I'm like,
all right, good to know.
Noted. So I've worked
and that's important people understand that, because if they're in a location that is super dry, high static, it's important to understand how it works.
Yeah. Now
so you can understand those false positives.
Yeah. In a room all by itself, static shouldn't be occurring. Ambient static doesn't just happen. You have to have, unless there's a lot of other moving parts, you have to have moving parts in order to create static. So like that's the whole point. That kinetic energy has to be there. There's like a small percentage of static that can occur, of course, without like kinetic energy, but movement's happening on some scale, so that if this was in somewhere all by itself, there's no reason it should go off. Now, if you walk by it and it goes off, it's probably you. It's easy. So it's like, it's not prone to the false positives that we can't see, which is why it's so fantastic. And you can put your cell phone on top of this and get some text messages. Now, don't get me wrong, your cell phone has static inside of it, especially if it has a plastic case. But like, it's testable, basically like false positive proof, because the only false positives are going to be you.
Yeah, the static you create, the static from.
Yeah. So that's why I'm very excited about this device. That's going to be my baby for a while.
I'm so glad we were able to chat. I've been wanting to pick your brain forever. I have now a million other things I want to talk to you about. I could just spend days talking to you, because I think it's very enlightening.
No sleep. And then it just gets progressively weirder because nobody sleeps.
Talk about a rabbit hole, then it's like a whole
Yeah.
vortex, a rabbit
Oh, yeah.
vortex. Well, thank you so much for all your time today. This has really been awesome getting to know you and getting to understand a little bit more about the Lauren story. I think it's great going back to school, learning these things and being able to take it back to the paranormal and to see how it impacts what new things we can try, what new things we can create. It seems to be an evolving story, right?
Getting more complex and more expensive.
As it does, as our passions do. They all
Hey,
start out
YOLO.
simple, and before you know it, here we are. Exactly. I don't know, maybe we live twice, we don't really know.
You know what? I'm living now like I lived once.
YOLO, even if we don't know.
I like that t-shirt.
See, new merch idea, that's yours.
I love it.
You can have that. Oh, this has been so fun in talking to you. So again, in the show notes, I'll go ahead and point everyone to everything, but it's Lauren Hauntz.
LaurenHauntz.com. Everything's Lauren Hauntz.
LaurenHauntz.com.
At Lauren Hauntz, LaurenHauntz.com, all of it.
Great. So, and if you would like to download the meditation, you can try that anywhere. And if you happen to want to go to Ohio or you're in Ohio, definitely stop by the Madison Seminary and you can get to try out the chamber in person, which I'm very much looking forward to. The Parastaricon at Ohio State Reformatory, 16th, 17th, and 18th, where Lauren will be speaking. It's going to be fun. So definitely find Lauren wherever you can. Check out her YouTube as well. Very interesting videos there. If you are unable to catch her when she does her live streams, they're also up on YouTube. So then I will be signing off here. And then I would just like to remind everyone to stay curious, stay investigating, stay spooky, and also stay a little skeptical. Until next time, I'm your host, Jennifer Lynn, and I will see you later.